Alright, this is going to be devlog number 10 of the FPS template, and if you recall from the last video, I went through and I showed off the new laser/flashlight system, as you can see here. So obviously there's, well, a red laser, you have a flashlight, all that fun stuff. So that for the most part is still the same. Some features have been added to the laser itself, as well as the actual aiming system. And when I refer to the aiming system, I mean like ways you can actually go through and aim. So currently, as you would know, if I just had this set up, well, you can see when I go to aim, I am now aiming down the laser. So we can have laser-based aiming as well. So this will be useful for things like if you had your own system for night vision and you didn't want to be able to aim through, any sort of your optics or iron sights, or if you wanted to limit that to specific ones, you could make them night vision compatible, or you could just have it so you do it like what happens in Modern Warfare, for example, where if you have night vision, you just simply aim down the laser of your PEC-15. And that's how this system kind of works. So what I ended up doing for this system to make it function that way is I rewrote how you actually, figure out where you want to aim or what parts you want to aim with. So for example, I have the 16-inch handguard on there right now. So let me head over to that class. Here's the handguard. So again, ignore these two parts. Those are just for the components for the attachment system. So if I go ahead and view the mesh, let me bring that up because I need to as well. Ooh, that's moving fast. You can see I have a socket here called S_aim. And if I head over to the handguard itself, we now have an aim socket. So this aim socket comes on the base class for the parts. So, sorry, my brain kind of went funky. As well as you'll see this boolean for is aimable. So you can set your aim socket to be, whatever you want to name your socket to for aiming. It's like if you have a bone there, for example, and you don't want to use a socket, you can do that. But you can set it to be aimable. So if I check that, and then I come over here, when I go through and aim, I'm aiming on the socket that I have on my handguard. And again, everything works all the same. So all the recoil, the procedural, movement, and all that fun stuff is all going to be the same. So that goes just like the sights based on the optic, based on the socket. So I currently have it rotated over on the roll and everything else pointing forward. So that's how that system now works. Now, if we go back to the laser, let's go ahead and add the laser again. We have another feature added. So obviously we have the flashlight, we have the laser, but we also have the ability, and this is replicated, to change the laser color. So you can have different materials that you can cycle through on the laser itself. So in this case, I just have simply red, green, and blue, because I don't see the need of really making anything else, but you can make your own materials, as I have provided a master material for this, where you can change the color to your liking, and I plan on adding a couple more features into that as well, so you can really kind of, have some lasers that are brighter than others, for example, and same thing goes with the flashlight. So I want to be able to have a just easily adjustable flashlight brightness. However, if we look at the part for said flashlight, which is right here, you can see that it's just a spotlight component. So this is where you would make all of your actual changes over here. So again, that's kind of specific to you. Okay. On top of that, since I went ahead and added the cycling for the lasers, or the laser color, we now have the ability to alter the reticles. So for this one, I have 3 different reticles. I have a red dot, a blue triangle, I don't know what we'd actually call that, and just my crappy representation of the EOTech. So that works all the same, and that's based upon your, currently used optic. So for example, if I attach canted sight, and I'll add the red dot to it, and then I'll go ahead and add an ACOG, and I have the red dot here on top of the ACOG. If I go through and I'll aim to this one, I can I'll set it to the blue triangle. I can go up here to the red dot on the ACOG, and I can cycle through this as well, and it still stays the same. So currently I'm still aiming on the slot on the handguard. But as you can see, the reticles stay they're independent of each other. So now, because I have that annoying little handguard thing that I don't want to aim with, I'm just going to uncheck is aimable. And now it is no longer possible to aim with it. So I can cycle through. As you can see, it goes through just fine. And again, everything is cyclable through. I believe that's pretty much it. There's obviously the ACOG, so I just wanted to have this here as kind of a reference for how multiple optics or multiple sights work when they stack on top of each other. Like, for example, the LCAN has, what do you call it? You would have two different, technically, you would have the optic and then you would have the iron sights on top. Some of them you have a small Picatinny rail or a mount that you can attach to the optic that has a Picatinny rail on it, so you can mount other little red dots and that kind of stuff. But to show off the modularity of the system, I just have the optic here, and then I have the part component, which allows acceptance for the red dot. So if I want to really expand this, I can show you something that's cool. I'll go ahead and add as well as the 45 offset. So that'll be fitted and attached right there. And because of how my compatibility system works, I go ahead and go to full screen real quick. If I add the ACOG, I can then add, this little guy, the red dot on top like normal. But I can add the offset mount as well, and then attach the red dot to that. So obviously it's not going to be lined up well at all because one, this has a slot that's designed specifically for that red dot, so no other sight can mount there. But I think you get the picture, so this is kind of how it would fit. So we have the red dot and the ACOG that you can cycle between. And yes, I know the reticle's wrong, as well as there's no magnification yet. But that's how you can go through and make that work. And if you wanted to, really, you could go through, you could swap it out with the laser. So we now have, again, the laser aiming. So if I go ahead and switch to semi, you can see it. Projectiles go pretty much where you're aiming. They're offset ever so slightly, again, because of one is height over bore. So if I shoot here, as you can see, the impact is way below the actual laser, and it's offset because of where the laser is. If I switch here, again, we have the same deal of height over bore. We have our fun flashlight that currently has a lot of shadow because of the sight there. But yeah, this system's just fully customizable. You can do anything to your heart's desire. Let me go ahead and get rid of that because that does not belong. But yeah, I just felt like showing that off a bit. I do believe that is pretty much everything that has been done so far. I guess I'll go ahead and show the replication of the lasers just for reference. I'll go ahead and just attach the offset and I'll throw a laser on there. So again, flashlight, that's all replicated except the laser. I can cycle through the laser colors, all the same, and that goes for both server and client. If you're doing a listen server and dedicated servers, or again, it's all the same. So I can go through, I'll just cycle through. And now that I'm looking at it, it kind of looks a little bit more yellow than green. Maybe it's just my eyes. But yeah, so everything is replicated. So you're good to go. And it is set up using on-rep events to trigger the replication, obviously, so you don't have to worry about players getting out of sync due to relevancy or anything like that when you go to switch that kind of stuff around. The reticles themselves, so let me go ahead and actually set that up. I'll just attach you. These are not replicated because, well, one, there's no real point to go through and actually replicate them. You can just, I don't know if you can see it, but you can just barely make out the red dot there. But if I cycle through, there is, you can't see it. Because again, I don't want to replicate that. I want to kind of keep that simple. I guess I could add an option to make it so it replicates. But I personally, I don't see much of a point to it. Just solely for the fact of, I mean, who's really going to care what reticle you have in your optic. It just saves a little bit as one less thing that you have to replicate. So anyways, I've kind of continued this on long enough. Yeah, that's going to be all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. I'm not exactly sure what else I really want to do. I know there's one bug that I got to fix, but yeah, I'll see you in the next video.